All right, we'll go ahead and get started. I want to say thank you to everybody for coming out. This is awesome. We didn't have a lot of time to get the word out, and so I didn't know how many people we'd have, and it's just awesome. Our Buffalo showed out, and we're excited to share with you what the progress we've made with the building and moving forward, and we're excited for our next chapter. So we do need to start the meeting. So let's get going.
Okay, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We're going to do 24-213, approval of the agenda.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the agenda.
There's been a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor? All opposed? We will go to 24-214, discussion, presentation of the options for USD 105 bond project. I believe that will be SPT Architects with Greg.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for everybody showing up tonight. We're going to have a presentation much like we did last time, and then open it up for questions later on. I have myself, Greg Tice with SPT Architecture, Kevin Winterscheidt with SPT Architecture, James Regier from SPT Architecture. Then we have Eric, sorry, I forgot your last name. Eric Woldsey and Barry Schmidt from Accountant Gordon. So last time when we did this, we were just getting ready to go through the selection process for the construction manager, and so I'm glad we're having Barry and Eric on board. And yeah, I know most people probably know Barry from growing up here, right? So, anyway, we'll get started. So we worked, one of the questions we were asked last time of, is there any additional funding that we can go after and look for? And in the 3 months that transpired since the last meeting, we've reached out to the Dane G. Hansen Foundation. We've applied for a grant there. We were denied. We applied for a $10 million grant, and we didn't exactly know what to expect from them and what they would support. And so we got a little bit of feedback that maybe that was too big of an ask, and that we can go back and ask for maybe certain things on the project later on. So there might still be a possibility to get some funding, but we know it's not going to be $10 million. And so we've also reached out to FEMA and talked to them, and they said they do not currently have any funding available. So other options that we presented last time were a sales tax option that would help offset some of the property tax mill levy increase. And so we have had some success with that. In fact, your local congressman, or
Representative
Adam Smith, is that? Yeah, Adam Smith, the representative, has done a lot at the Kansas House getting it through the legislature. And in fact, just on this Sunday, it was passed by both the House and the Senate in Kansas that they would allow a 1 cent sales tax, county sales tax vote to occur, which would occur at the August 6th primary. So that is very significant because it is the best way to help offset property taxes, and it reduces the property tax impact by about 8 mils. And so it helps out quite a bit on the project. The other thing that we've done, we've studied several options. I think you've heard several rumors about, are we tearing down the BOAG building? Are we tearing down the elementary school? What are we doing? Where are we headed with things? And so we've settled on the options that we're going to show you for now. We also were asked about parking and playgrounds, and we have things to show you that we have a plan for those. In the meantime, we've also been trying to get the gym and the commons area and that south part of the building ready for the fall, so that you guys don't have to travel for games and you can have practices and you actually have a working gym that you can use. We're still working through that, but we think we're going to get close to being able to make that happen. And it really depends on two things. It depends on the asbestos removal, and it depends on what was the other one? So mainly just the asbestos removal and the timing of the demolition. We can start working on that building as soon as we get contractor in there, demolition contractor, to separate what's going to come down from what's going to stay. The insurance company won't let anybody use the building until we make that separation, but the main building doesn't have to all be torn down before we can start working on the building. Thanks, Eric. Kevin. The second thing was the availability of the dump. I know there's some capacity of the landfill is currently full. They're working on getting more capacity, but still not quite ready yet, but we think that'll happen in the next 4 weeks or so. So hopefully that timing works out. But again, we're not dependent upon that having to happen, and we just have to separate the two buildings, and then we can start working on the gym. Our engineers have talked with the utility companies about services. We have a plan for reusing the existing transformer for the first phase. We need to order the final transformer. We have a plan for the utilities as far as gas and sewer, and how those can be reworked and used. And the main thing that we have to do as far as renovation for the gym to get in use is really just get the fire alarm going. We're also planning with some of that work to renovate the locker rooms, both the locker rooms on the east side and the locker rooms underneath the bleachers. But beyond that, and we're going to be putting air conditioning and a new roof on at least the east portion of the gym where the locker rooms are. But really in the south part where the commons area and the band room for this first part, we're not planning on doing anything until we determine if we're going to do a K-12 option or a 7-12 option. Thinking that we don't want to spend a lot of money doing a lot of work in that area if it's going to be a K-12, and that part's going to come down as well. So this drawing shows kind of how we're approaching the demolition part of the project. So the red area is the old high school. That's the part that would 100% come down. The green area is the south part, and that's an alternate that we're having the county board bid out so that we can determine what that cost is and understand if we do select to do that, then we understand what the cost impact of that part is. I also wanted to show you kind of how we approach the demo of the existing building. So in the demo plans, we've said to keep all of the cast stone ornamental elements on the front part of the building so that we can reuse them in the new building. And then we've also made we've also made the front entry, the whole terracotta kind of piece that is around the main front entry. We have an alternate so we know what that will cost to save as well. I think there's a little bit of concern that it may be brittle and we're not exactly sure how it will come out, but we're going to do our best to save that. And if it doesn't, and we still want that look, we can recreate that if needed. So after we did the first community survey, I just wanted to kind of just go over that a little bit. There were some questions about it, and so we thought we had a great response. We had 35% response. Most professional survey companies say 20 to 30% response is a great response. So we thought we had a great response in that. 73% supported a K-12 building with a 31 mil property tax increase. 25% supported a 7-12 building with a 25 mil property tax increase. And 85% supported a sales tax option to help offset the mill levy increase. And so try and remember, write those down as far as the 31 mil and the 25 mil, because we'll have other information to compare that to later on in the presentation. So like I said, some of the questions we also had in the comments were where will the playgrounds be located? How will the parking work? Many commenters said, do this right and take the time needed to do it right. One thing we didn't do, well, we forgot to explain at the last meeting, was that we do want to take our time to get this right. We've been exploring a lot of options, but there is a little bit of urgency to get the project moving forward because the school is not given the option to purchase the portable classrooms. They were only given the opportunity to lease the portable classrooms. The insurance company is only going to pay for those until August of 2025. So after that, it's going to cost the school district about $17,000 a month plus utilities to keep those operable. And so we don't want to, I think the school's working on getting an extension on that, but I don't think you guys have heard anything yet on that, right? And so, what we're trying to do is get this done as soon, at the end of 25 as possible. We kind of, I don't know if we can get it done any sooner than that. I probably shouldn't speak for Eric and Barry at this point on that. But there is a little bit of pressure there. And so we would like to ask you to do a second survey, and we have updated information. I think everybody's been through the process once. Another thing we learned when we did the last survey was that we hadn't checked the box that you could attempt multiple opportunities to vote. So what we did is we went back, and that number, that 73% number, we went back and looked at how many people voted more than once, and we gave every IP address 2 opportunities to vote, thinking maybe there's a husband and wife in a household, or there'd be 2 people in a household that could vote. So we gave the opportunity for everybody to have 2 IP address votes. This time, we've checked the box so that you can only have 1 vote per IP address. And so that's as kind of finite as we can get it. It's not perfect, but it's as close as we can get. So everybody can get 1 vote. I was talking to Chandler about this. He knows better than I do. He didn't have a voice tonight, so I get to say this. But if you're at home and you're using your phone, and your husband, your spouse is using their phone, and you're both using the same Wi-Fi, you're using the same IP address. So if you get off of your Wi-Fi and you use your program, then it will allow you to vote. So if you find any issues like that, don't use the same Wi-Fi. That's about as technical as I can get with explaining that. If anybody, but anyway, that's the best way we can do it. And the other opportunity is still to do a hand survey or hand vote. That's what you received, or we're sitting out there tonight. You can fill that in and turn that in, and the school send that to us. School doesn't handle it. The only thing that they do is they get them and they send them to us so that nobody has any idea about who's saying what, and it's as confidential as we can make it. So again, we want to make sure we're doing what you want us to do. This is a big decision for the community. So here's the site plan for the 712 option. And both options have 117 parking spots on the north side. And what we've done is we've located the main entrance to the building on the north side, but the existing, we're still planning on keeping the look of the existing entrance as you look up the hill the same. So we're similar in reusing those cast stone elements. So what we've done is we've wrapped the parking around the BOAG building, and then we have a bus drop off on 8th Street in front of the building, and then we have an elementary drop off. Well, we don't need it on this one, but it would be on the south end. We did look at, it would be kind of nice, honestly, it would make the site more efficient if we took out the BOAG building, and then you could have all that parking a lot closer, and you could put the BOAG part up against the north side of the gym, but it was just going to be too costly, and I know there's a lot of pushback and saying, why would we get rid of a building like that? So that's not on the table anymore. So this is the lower level plan. The lower level plan is the same in both options. It's got the gym, the bleachers would be retractable so that it would open up and have 2 cross courts and 2 volleyball courts. Then we have the wrestling room on the lower level and 2 locker rooms. And that would basically walk out at the level close to the track level. And then I want to say something about the floor plans. We have like 3 floor plans we're currently working on right now. We had to choose one, so don't think that this is where things are going necessarily. But they're all the same square footage and they have all the same uses. They're just in different places. So for instance, this one shows the media center right off where that existing front entry was. It may not be that we may still keep that front entry there. It's just a matter of us shifting around. But we had to put something on here, and I didn't want to put 3 different floor plans on here that would just confuse everybody. So we're still working on that. But the big picture right now is that we just need to know the cost and the size, and then we'll still be working on where things are shifting around. But then, very similar to what we had before, we had the classrooms and junior high classrooms on the first level, and then cafeteria and cafetorium like we had before. Then we had the weights and the band room on the east end, looking out towards the track. Then on the second level, again, very similar to before, where we had the high school on the second level, and then we have the kind of the overlook down into the cafeteria area. So the total cost of this option is $32.8 million. And we have the insurance reimbursement of $8.5 million. So the remaining cost is $24.3 million. And so the bond issue vote would be for a $24.3 million project. Sorry, and then the sales tax would not be off the bond amount, but it would lessen the property tax impact. And so it would make the property tax impact $16.8 million. And that results, if we do a 30-year term for the bond, it would be $18.25 million tax increase. If we do a 25-year bond, it's a $21 million tax increase. The way the tax is figured is they just allocate the taxes as they are today. And so if there's $100,000 in sales tax that this county gets, they've used $100,000 for 25 years or 30 years. So they, as we all know, inflation happens and there's going to be more money coming in than that over time, but that's a conservative approach that Piper Sandler takes. And they typically see these get paid off quite a bit faster than that, just because of how that works out. So option 2 is the K-12 option. It has a playground highlighted in the blue areas. We have an 11,000 square foot playground up next to the building for the younger kids, and then there's the road that we thought it was okay to use that road. There may be a gate so that it's mainly for deliveries that come in before school happens, and that gate may get closed so it's safer to go across. But then we thought there's room there to put a playground for the maybe the older kids with basketball courts or something like that in that area. We know we can't take away parking from around there for football. But that's the existing playground that's on the northwest corner of this building is 18,000 square feet. So to give you some perspective, it's try to keep at least a similar amount. There's a lot of playground here when you have on both sides of the building. I know the basketball courts use the bus drive as well. So we think there's plenty of space here when you have 20,000 square feet of playground space. And again, this one has 117 parking spots on the north side, the bus drop off in front, and the elementary drop off on the south side as well. This lower level floor plan is the same. And then everything on the left side for the high school part is basically the same. The difference is, since we had the last presentation, we do have a survey. I know a lot of people thought there's no way we're going to be able to build right against that south end. There's too much grade up against that road, and you're right. So what we're proposing here is a 2-story elementary piece instead of just doing it on one story. And that also gives us the flexibility to provide more playground space on that end. So on the first floor, you see it'd be like kindergarten through first grade, and then we would have, I think, second, third, and fourth on the second level of that portion of the building. So the total cost for this option is $38.4 million. Less the insurance cost, so the remaining cost is $29.9 million. That would be what the bond amount would be. The county sales tax would be about $7.5 million credited towards that over time. So the property tax impact would be $22.4 million. That equals a 24.25 mil tax increase over 30 years, or a 27.75 mil tax increase over 25 years. This is the slide that we had last time, but it shows kind of what the area school districts are as far as their their mill levy rates. So you can see USD 105 currently at a 50.032 mill levy. So you see Quinter is up at 75, so that's 25 mils higher than you. So it gives you some perspective on where you're at relative to others, where you might want to be, and what that looks like. So if, for instance, if you did do the 30-year K-12 building, you basically be about the same mill levy rate as Quinter is. So this is information I know you can't read, but all this will be on the school website. This breaks it down per residential property and for 25 years and 30 years. So you can kind of go on here and you can see what the cost of your house is, or the value of your house is, and you can kind of see what your tax implication might be. And so the way that is for a residential property. So for option 1, this compares option 1 and option 2. So the difference between the two for a $100,000 house would be a $17.49 increase per month for a $100,000 house. Option 2 would be a $23.24 increase per month for a $100,000 house. Then we look at commercial property, and on commercial property, it's basically about double or a little more than double what a residential property is. It'd be $38.02 per month for a $100,000 commercial property, or $50.52 per month for option 2. And then thirdly, we have agricultural property. And again, we always want to be careful. These are averages of the area, so we can't pinpoint everybody's land because they're all based on productivity and they change over time. So, but the average for this area would be dry cropland for option 1 would be a $1 increase per acre for dry cropland versus $1.33 for option 2. Irrigated land would be $2.63 per acre and versus $3.50 per acre. I should have said these are the difference between on the first 2, residential and commercial. These are the residential and commercial numbers are per month. These are annually per acre. So the grassland is 18 cents per acre on option 1 and 23 cents per acre on option 2. And again, those are annual costs, not monthly increases. So that pretty well goes for that portion of it. You want to change that?
You said third, fourth, you said through third, fourth, 56 points, right? New grade. You didn't mention that.
Yeah, so the way we worked the question on the 5th and 6th grades was that the 5th and 6th grade, so we had the Head Start, kindergarten, 1st and 2nd on the 1st floor. We had Head Start, kindergarten, 1st grade on the 1st floor. We had 2nd, 3rd, and 4th on the 2nd floor. And then 5th and 6th grade goes on the left side of the existing gym for the K-12. And a lot of what I just said here is in the handout that we gave you there. This is the survey that if you go to that you can read. And yeah, let me scroll down. So we tried to keep this survey question pretty simple. We didn't figure we needed to ask about the county sales tax because we had 85% response asking which option do you support. And you should support option A, or option 1, which is 712 building. You support option 2, which is the K-12 building. Or do you support option C is I support both options. And option D is I do not support either option. So we want to see kind of the percentage of what people support there. And then we're also trying to, one of the things we heard from the last survey was who is voting? Is it people who are actually going to be paying taxes? Is it people who are in the district, or is it people out of town? So we asked the question, are you a property owner within the Unified School District 105 Rawlins County? Question 3 is, are you a resident within the school district? Question 4, just ask for what your zip code is. And then question 5 is allowing you to make comments about whatever you'd like to say about the plans, the options, what we should be doing differently, what you like. Just an opportunity for, and we had quite a few comments last time, and we do read every one of them, so we do appreciate the comments that you make, good or bad. So they all help. What we've done is we've kept that survey open till April 22nd, which is a Monday. And last time we had some things happen, and so we extended that date. But for now, we really need to be making a decision, or I say the board really needs to make a decision to get this on the ballot sometime in early May. So we're really trying to push towards, making sure we have as much information as we can to make, so the board can make the best decision they can to move forward in the right direction. So that's all I have.
Okay. Good questions. We'll move on to 24-215, open forum. Allow time for patrons to ask questions related to the bond or the building. And we do have a mic set up here for you to talk to. Would be nice.
Yes.
Hello.
I got one. It considers option 1. Rebuild the 7 through 12 grade building and keep the elementary school and update portions for approximately 1.7 million. The elementary school would still require more renovation work in the future. Can you expound on what that is and how much?
Yeah, we tried to account for, a lot of things in redoing and renovating this building to make it last for a while. But that doesn't mean we're not planning on redoing the roofs on the building. And the roofs were in pretty decent shape. But there's still a lot of square footage of roofs that would have to be taken care of in the future. So the benefit of moving to the K-12 building versus the 7-12 building is that it reduces the maintenance costs that the school will have over time for this building. And eventually you have to put new roofs on, things like that. We're taking care of a lot of the things that need taken care of, but we're not, when we said there's more renovation costs, they're just still going to be upkeep over time for the building. And the school, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you guys said you would save about $300,000 annually in your operating costs if you didn't have to keep this building.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So that's what that was meant for.
So I'm just saying, what work besides out of this 1.7 you're doing, what else?
You're saying what is included in that $1.7 million?
What else, after 1.7 million is spent on this school, and I don't know what that's gonna be for, then what else down the road are we looking at? Have you been told that as the site managers and all that stuff?
We have
Figure
used,
that out.
yeah, that $1.7 million was to take care of the things that need to be taken care of the next 5 years in this building. It's also redoing entrances. We had, I think, $400,000 allocated toward exterior improvements. We don't have a finite list of how much everything else is included. There was a survey there was a building analysis that was done in May of last year or April of last year before the fire happened, but there's not any costs that were associated with those, so it's hard to get a handle of exactly what all is required for that.
You might give me an idea what this heating, plumbing, air electrical.
We're really talking like the plumbing, the heating, air conditioning, things like that. Outside of like the entrances, we're not talking that the building's the look of it's gonna be updated a whole lot on that. If that makes sense.
Also like pass that down the road.
And we can expand on that further and put that information on the website for you. Okay.
Okay, good evening. I have a few questions. I was happy to see in option 1, K through 12 site plan, what looks like an addition of 9,000 square feet of playground area. Just by the drawing, it kind of looks like it's for us footballers when we pull in that upper gate and take a sharp right. It looks like it's right there, kind of.
Yeah, let me go to that. So that was what I was trying to say. We understand there's that road there, and then there's parking that's sold by the Booster Club for those stalls, and people like to park there. We would not be encroaching on that. There's areas that we may be pushed a little bit further to the south there, trying to find the right balance of keeping it as close as we can to the school, so you're not having to track kids a long ways to get over to it. But it's more meant as a general location for that.
Mm-hmm. And then the playground right next to the building would have more like the equipment and climbing things on it. Is that
correct? But also probably more geared toward the littler children, littler age students who you don't want to have to take as far away, and to be kind of geared that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, my question about the playground, and of course my concern, is just by coincidence, I kind of polled our student body this last week to ask them what they loved most about their school in a different event that we did. And aside from good teachers and friends and the typical answers, it's I love having room to roam and play. Specifically, some kids would even go so far as to say, I need time and space to blow off steam. And so the playground thing is a major concern of mine, because I believe that there's a lot of kids that can only sit in their chair and learn if they know recess is coming up. And if you see our recess out here, you see that, I mean, we're building little buffaloes out there on that grassy area. And then there's kids that just communicate with their friends. So it really, I mean, we've grown accustomed to having these awesome playgrounds, and it's kind of essential for me.
So one of the nice things about that site, putting it at that location, is you have the whole football field right there, and not just a football field, but you have a lot of area around there too. If teachers or kids need places for kids to go and just run, there's a lot of area that can be utilized in those spaces for just exactly that.
Yeah.
And so that was another thing that we thought of, and we're doing that at Pratt, we're doing a 4th, 5th grade center there. They don't have a lot of room for a playground at that site, but they have their whole football field that's right adjacent to it, and that's what they're planning on doing. They're planning on taking their kids over there because you can just run, and you can play kickball, you can play soccer, and it's a great location that this site has as well that you can utilize.
Okay, if they can utilize it, right?
Right.
Okay. Second question is, I think I don't know if this is a question for you or if I'm jumping the gun, but did some of the school board members visit other K through 12 schools to see how it works to do K through 12 specifically with safety in mind?
Yeah, we went to the Greensburg school. It was the admin, and then Jordan went with us as well.
Is that part of tonight's meeting that we might talk about what you found with safety and teacher input with a K through 12?
Just from that experience.
Thank you.
From that experience, they really designed their building to where it could naturally have separation. One element, they had their elementary classrooms, and at the end they had of the same hallway, they had their junior high classrooms. And what they did is the elementary classrooms were in a straight hallway, and then at the end of that hallway, to go to the junior high classrooms, they just turned it a little bit. And that naturally created a barrier on that. Ours really has that with the gym in place. You know, we don't really have the spot to turn the building like what they did, but we do feel like they had that. Another thing that they had is they had the same cafeteria, but it was a bigger space, and this will be a bigger space. And it really allowed plenty of time and room to have a bigger grade level, or more grade levels in there at one time to help keep the kids separated, even though it's a space that they all use. And part of it will be the scheduling and things like that we'll have to look at.
How do you anticipate that, because I just seen where the parking is at by the bus barn, how are we going to utilize the bus barn and maintenance in that scenario?
Well, yeah, because I can see that we have parking shown in front of that door to the bus barn, right? We might have to take out a little bit of the parking there to make that happen. There's enough width, I think, in between there to still have access in between the buildings. The greenhouse would have to be relocated. It wouldn't work with the gym up against it, block some of the sun. But that still will work with the bus barn. And to go back to the question about the K-12, we're working with Westdale, we're working with Crest in Colony, Kansas. I've been to, as a board member, been to southeast of Saline. We're working with Heston right now, and we're working with Heston, and they have a 512 building. They don't have a K-12 building, but they had a lot of concerns from the community when they went from just a 9 through 12 building to a 5 through 12 building. Concerns about fifth graders being in there with high schoolers and all that. And so we have done a lot of study on that. And I will say, even the superintendent who came from Rock Creek the previous year, he had been the superintendent there, and they had put in $300,000 worth of security gates and things like that, just to make sure that those kids in Rock Creek were separate from the middle schoolers were separate from the high schoolers. He said they used them for about a week, and then they never used them again. And so all these schools that have K-12s, they love it, and they love the mentoring that goes on from the younger kids, or from the older kids to the younger kids. We've never heard a single issue of things going on in a K-12 building with safety. And a lot of it, I think, goes to what Eric said about scheduling. It's like all the elementary school kids are always supervised with their teacher. They don't move classroom to classroom like the older kids do. And when they go to lunch, they're with staff. So the way just the general classes work from elementary to high school helps alleviate some of that.
On option 2, K through 12, where is the USD office located?
Could
So-
you repeat the question, please?
On option 2, K through 12, where is the USD office located?
So there's questions about whether the district office wants to be located, whether that wants to be located at that building, or there's been discussions about, I don't think it's been settled upon where the district office is going to end up. Depending on what happens with this building, it could stay in this building. It could also be moved to the part of the BOE building as well. There's only really 3 or 4 offices that are included in the district office. There's, I think, Eric, Chandler, Emily, and maybe one other office, right?
Yeah.
And so it doesn't really take up a significant amount of space.
Sure. Is there a cost associated with that?
Yeah, there would be a minimal cost associated with that.
If you go with the K through 12 option, the tax burden on us, we pay for that. What happens to this building? Who owns this building? And are you going to come back and ask the taxpayers for more more funds to eliminate this building, renovate this building? Who owns it? Can you address that, please?
Yeah, so the school will still own this building, and the school will still own the property. There's been discussions about, do you sell the building? Do you just tear down the building? And so that there isn't any more maintenance, or if there isn't any more dollars that have to be associated with tax dollars with it still being on the payroll. I don't think that has been decided yet. But there's different, some people have said tear it down and make lots for housing. So there's several different options to consider there.
One of the things you talked about earlier was the walking area around the gym. And if you've been to Colby Event Center, which I have kids live in Colby, they have that in their event center. It's open, I don't know how it's all day. You can go there anytime. A lot of older people and people who are in rehab from broken bones and things like that use that walking trail. And we have our lake, but much of the year, as an old person, I don't feel real comfortable walking, tripping over ice and things like that. So that was something that really appealed to me, was the idea. And you mentioned, if I'm remembering right, that people could have a card, district. I don't know how you would assign that card, but we could have a card and go and use that trail or that walking area at any time that wasn't being used by the school. Is that understanding correct?
So yeah, we've had a lot of success. James Regier here used to be the superintendent of Remington. We did a similar project for him, and we did the exact same thing where we provided key fobs that people would have access to use the walking track and the weight room, cardio facilities. Now, that's a district decision that every district has to make. But one of the things that's great about facilities like this is being able to provide community access to them and use for them. And you can use, with those key fobs, I think I showed mine last time, you can control when people have access. You can control that key. It would only work until, say, 8 o'clock in the morning, or it'd work after 7 p.m., or the school can change it anytime they want. So it's a fantastic way to have a place for the whole community to use the school, not just the kids, but everybody's paying for it. And we have seen a lot of use like that. The first one I did was in Marion, Kansas, where I grew up, and I don't know if I told the story last time, but I was in there on a beautiful day like today. It was 70 degrees outside, and there's an elderly woman walking in there, and I asked her, why aren't you outside walking? Because it's beautiful outside. And just to your exact same point, her words to me were, it's safe in here. I don't have to worry about falling. I don't have to worry about tripping on a bad piece of concrete or slipping on gravel. So it's a great way to account for that.
I might add, as a grandmother myself, in the wintertime when I have grandkids here, it would be nice to have a place to go and let them run also. So it's not just for the old people, but is that option included in the K-12 and the 7-12?
I can't speak for the board, but that was our thoughts when we were doing this.
That's what, okay, that would be included in both.
Is that, yes?
Yeah, the walking part, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I think that would be a super addition to the community.
Our community loves it.
I don't know if you heard James, but he just said their community loves it, and yeah.
Okay, I agree. I have a couple questions, and I'm going to go with one that Matt mentioned a little bit ago, and I just sat here looking at both the options, and it's related to parking. Matt, if you said this and I didn't hear it, stop me, please. But it looks like there's parking stalls planned for right in front of the garage door for the buses.
Yeah.
Did you say that, Matt?
Okay. That needs to change.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure. So the other thing I noticed in the numbers, the financing and stuff, there's no interest charge, no interest called out directly what the interest is going to be. So could you share what the interest would be on either one of these or both of them over 20 to 25 years for everyone to know the total cost?
The total cost is included, the total cost, you're asking for the total cost of the bond with including interest payments and all that? Yeah, I don't have that number, but we do have that number from Piper Sandler, and it can be put on the website. I think what they used.
They used 4%, didn't they?
I think they used 4%.
It was 4.25 for 25 years and 4.75 for the 30-year.
Okay. So, I don't know if you didn't hear Eric, he said the 25-year interest rate that Piper Sandler used was 4.25%, and for the 30-year, it was 4.75%.
Yeah, but I think it would be good for everyone to know what the principal and the interest is. And maybe it's in here, I just don't know.
No, it's not in there. It's what the way Piper Sandler does is they give us those sheets of, here, I'll show you.
Good. Yeah.
Piper Sandler gives us these sheets, but there's also more detailed information. They'll give us an amortization table, and we can put that on the website.
Yeah. And then another comment I had about these long-term financing deals is that this 25 or 30 year package, whatever was approved, really is beyond the life of some of the new things in the school building that are going to require maintenance before the building's paid off. And so I just would ask the current school board to think about that and see what kind of legacy you could leave for the next school boards so they're prepared for those things. You know, because you don't always have a roof insurance claim that is going to pay for part of your roof. It's just worn out, it needs to be replaced. That's 100% cost on the school district. So it's just long-term planning and kind of a budgeting thought I wanted to share with the board about that. And so just be aware of those things and leave a good legacy for future school boards where they can maybe plan for this someday. I know there's challenges there with school funding and stuff, but you got to plan for it. Otherwise, know what you're getting into. So, I think that's what I want to say for now. I may get up again, but we'll see.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And your point is well taken. When I was on the school board at Renwick, we did a bond issue in 2000, and I didn't get on the board in Renwick until 2011. But what we noticed was when they did that bond issue in 2000, they put rooftop units on there that were the cheap ones. And after 10 years, our utility costs started escalating. And so we do make it a point when we're designing these buildings that we're trying to put in things for the long term, paying a little bit extra for better mechanical units that are going to last longer, so that school boards don't have to have that kind of issue. It's a lot easier to do smaller things than it is big things like roofs for sure. Sorry, go ahead.
I was listening. No. So I understand we aren't sure what we're going to do with this building if we go with a K through 12, but what does that mean for the Head Start program that's currently allowed? Do we have any sort of plan for that?
So there's space in that K-12 option for the Head Start to be located there.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'm going to get up again. Just thought of my comment.
Okay, I just have some things that might help you guys out. The question was, Bob, about pulling in for parking for football games. On the south end of the field here, there is a gate. We could redirect the parking to go through that way and not have to interfere with the playground. So that might help you guys out. And then my next question was, what is this area? Is this just going to be open area here?
That on the east side?
Yeah, right.
Between the school and the track.
Yeah, between the school and the track. That area would remain delivery area for the kitchen and some
I was just
staff
wondering
parking.
about moving this playground into that area.
Yeah, we had thought about that. And even, we didn't show it that way, but we were going to talk about the day we put some basketball goals there. Since it's a paved area, you could put some basketball goals there and then they could use that back there as well. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And like I said, there's a gate on that end. They could redirect the traffic so they don't have to drive through the playground, so.
Okay. My other couple thoughts is are you at a point to kind of know or can share what the size of the classrooms are going to be, that sort of thing? Are you at that point where you can maybe comment?
We kept the classroom sizes for the elementary. We kept the classroom sizes for the elementary the same size as they are here.
Okay.
And we didn't really know, I think the classroom sizes in the old high school were pretty small. We
Very.
we don't have any plans to show that, but just from what we can tell, are you working on that?
Yeah.
But they're bigger. I think they're 700 square feet for the high school classrooms, which is a pretty good size for high school classrooms. And I think, actually, I think they're comparable to what they are in the portables right now.
Okay, and what size is that?
Like, you gonna get that?
Yeah, I'm almost there. It would be really comparable to our, there are around 25 by 30 rooms in our portables.
Oh, really? So that'll be somewhere close to what the high school?
Right.
Good. That sounds great. The old rooms are much smaller.
Yeah, they're too small.
Okay. My mind slipped a gear again. All right, I'll leave you alone now. Thank you.
The typical classroom size is about 730 square feet. So that's about 25 by 30.
That should be a nice thing. Oh, all right, last one. So the comments have been made about this savings of building a K through 12 and all that. And those are estimates, I assume, Eric, or hopefully reasonable estimates. All right, so my point being, the way it sounds, there's going to be more square footage in the high school, disregarding the elementary school for now, than there was before. True?
Yes.
Okay, so you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
It's hard to project utility costs and all those when you come back with a bigger school. Now, I'm assuming the high school 7 through 12 or K through 7 is going to be as energy efficient as possible. So you might save some money, you might not. So when you're thinking about these numbers, they might not work out like you think it's been estimated. That's my point.
Yeah.
Okay? All right.
Thanks.
So at the last meeting, we had an option between the city sales tax bringing in like 2.7 million and the county sales tax bringing in 7.5 million. I was just wondering what is taxed in the county sales tax? What items?
I don't know if I'm the one to answer that question. Terry might have a better answer than I do.
What was your question again?
What does that 1 cent county sales tax?
What does it bring in?
It's taxed on sales, I guess is the best. So any like goods and services, anything you currently pay a sales tax on now, that would be applied to an additional 1 cent sales tax. Does that make sense?
You've got a sales tax and you have the use tax. Use tax is based off of what comes into Kansas. And then your sales tax is on the goods sold within the county. And the 1% county sales tax will bring in approximately $520,000 a year.
Okay, might have to talk to you later. I'm still not clear what it brings in that the city sales tax went, because obviously everything in the city was only going to bring in 2.7 million. And when you expand it to the county, then it was tripled that.
The sales tax is, the state allocates the sales tax to the counties. The cities really receive a portion, a percentage of the total sales tax in the county. And I can't remember exactly how much the city portion is, but it's 15-20%, somewhere in that ballpark range.
Okay.
And then you've got McDonald and Herndon also gets a very small percentage.
All right, thank you.
This may be directed more towards the board, I'm not really sure. But to speak on the cost of the bigger classrooms and whatnot, I think something we also need to take into account is that
Rawlins County, we are growing, especially Atwood, at an exponential rate for a small town. And I like the idea of having these larger classrooms. I think that's a great way to plan for the future. So our utility costs may increase, but so is our population, hopefully, to keep this community going. And my second piece was, it keeps getting brought up about what's going to happen with this building. And there's a lot of speculation around that, but I know in working with trying to get the child care center up, it's been brought up about the after-school programs and how the state is looking into making these after-school programs mandatory. If that would happen, is there potential for the school to sell this building and it be divided to where the front half can be used for apartment complexes and the back half could be used for an after-school program, to where the gym and the playgrounds and whatnot could still be utilized, so it's not necessarily a waste of a building? Just out of curiosity, I mean, I don't know structurally, did you guys look at this building to see if the potential to separate it would be possible?
No, it's very easy to separate, and there's also been talk about you just tear down the classroom wing, create parking there, and then make this a community center, keep the gym. So there's a lot of options for this building, yeah.
And to go on your first part, we do have just a number of, we can increase by a number of students before we need to expand our classrooms. We're very fortunate to have smaller classrooms and we've got our class sizes and we've gotten very accustomed to that. But we can increase that and still be not near as big as a lot of places. Probably our average elementary is 15, 16, 17 kids. And, you know, our negotiated agreement has up to like 22 kids. And so we just with 2 classrooms per grade level, that's already about 10 kids plus that we can increase without having to worry about space. And that's per grade level.
It appears that the greenhouse has been removed from this picture, is that correct?
Correct.
And I had mentioned before that the new building is getting really close to the old building, or the ag building, and the south side door is the only way to get big pieces of metal, gas supplies, etc. in there. So if there is a covered walkway, I presume, still here between the 2 buildings, this section would be blocked off.
No, we've planned that there will be space between the 2 enough that you can still access that south side and bring your trailer in and bring in material.
Okay. I'm sure the community would love this idea and you guys would too, but I think that the track is going to need some repairs soon. And if that's the case, the track doesn't have to be set where it is. And if you would like to lose the street front view, is there a way to move this area towards the practice field, take off a bit of this football field because we're 8-man instead of 11-man, open this whole area up and not take away the practice field, just nick a corner off of the football field and move the track and football field to the north just slightly. And then you could do all your drawings all over again on all your work. But that would open up this whole area and maybe create some possibilities.
Yeah. And we have not included any costs for the repair of the track in the bond issue. The school's aware that needs to happen and want to allocate other funds for that, but we're trying to keep bond issue down as much as possible and then be able to use other funds for some things like that. With all the grading that was done, with putting out the portables over there and all, it would take some grading work to do that, but it would be nice to free up some area on that south end, where you could expand the playground area into that area as well. And so it's certainly something we can look at.
And I'm sure everybody has kind of looked up there where modulars are. That's all plumbed in, sewered in, electric in. When those modulars go, there's a huge space up there that can be utilized for a whole lot of different stuff.
Yeah,
Correct?
Yes, we showed the parking, the 117 spaces. You could really extend that parking as far to the east as you wanted in that area and create a substantial amount of parking back there. You could even just gravel part of it and use it for overflow. Yeah, there's lots of space there. So even though we show 100, thanks for pointing that out, even though we only show 117 spaces, you could get a lot more parking back there if you wanted to.
Not a question, I just want to address Wendy's concern about how big the classrooms were. Several of us in here had 70 and 80 in our classrooms up here at this high school. So it sounds good to me. I'm looking at it going, that looks pretty good to me, because there was a lot of us in that went through this grade school and high school with huge classes. So I thank you for what you're doing. What?
You survived.
Yes, we did.
Hello, board. Hello, community. For those of you who don't know me, I am one of the teachers here, and I've been to a lot of board meetings. If you follow my Facebook posts and everything else, I just want to voice that I want to make sure that we are also asking the people that are in charge of your children every day and taking care of them, what their opinions and what their thoughts are. Because I have yet to have one board member come to my classroom, except for one, and ask me my thoughts and opinions, or come and ask me for information. And I have diligently done my job to figure out what our options are and what we need to do to move forward. And I have my own opinions and everything else. I just want to make sure that you community members understand that as well, that we really have the best interest for your kids in mind. And if you ask the entire USD 105 faculty and staff what their opinions are and their professional opinion on which direction we should be moving, you would be surprised at the answer as far as where we need to go. And if you really want to move forward in the generations to come, then the price tag is going to be higher than what we originally thought. But somebody did it for us a long time ago, and we need to do the same for 100 years from now.
Could you explain, I just think a lot of people would like to know, so who gets to vote in this bond issue? And, is it property owners? Is it everyone in the county?
Yeah, the people who get to vote on the bond issue are anybody who owns property within the boundaries of the school district. So if the school district, lives in the registered, that's lives. Misspoke there, because if somebody owns a house and that they're renting and that person lives in Wichita or Hayes, they can't vote. Only the person who lives in that residence or lives within the school district boundary can vote.
To summarize it, anybody that's registered in Rawlins County to vote.
Not Rawlins County, just the school district area.
School district.
Yeah.
All right, and then how many voters would vote in the election? How many voters fit that mold?
There's 1,500 registered voters approximately in the 105 school district. And typically, I think the turnout's been, well, that depends on the election, but, since if we get it on the primary election, then we're probably gonna get a 70% turnout.
So if you didn't hear Charity said there's 1,500 registered voters in the school district area. And it really depends on the election, what that turnout is going to be. So it's hard to say who will turn out.
Thank you. Just one more quick question. Have you considered installing ground source heat pumps, solar panels, things like that to make it as efficient as possible for looking forward, decreasing the cost over time?
We've looked at solar panels on other projects and they've never been feasible. We priced them when we did the Heston project, and just to cover part of the building is going to cost $750,000, and it had a great payback, but you still have to come up with $750,000 up front to make that happen. I say great payback, it was 10 years, I think it was. So we will be looking at some of those options. We haven't determined exactly what type of mechanical system we will be using. There's pros and cons to the heat pump options as well. So, but definitely energy efficiency is a concern.
Mention service as well.
What's that?
Service, like local people being able to service.
Yeah, and Jordan mentioned we also need to keep mindful of what local people are able to service. I know we deal with a lot of schools across the state, and having some of them have to have a service person come in from Wichita to western Kansas or to southeast Kansas, and it just costs an arm and a leg. So you really need to be mindful of trying to, you all want to support the local service people as well. So there's those factors to keep in mind.
Are there any other questions?
Hello, just a general funding question. How much contact have we had with like our state and federal representatives as far as getting some money from their bloated budgets and maybe to help us out? I mean, that's a lot to ask of a county, people to, finance $30 million that we all have to pay, So I'm just hoping we've totally exhausted that, and hopefully we're leaning on those people as much as we can to, get something back from them,
we've had a lot of conversation with Representative Smith on those. Unfortunately, the formula that the state has, like I said last time, we're considered a rich district, and that has to do with our land valuation and the number of kids that we have, and that's where we're kind of hurting that area. Just we have such a large area. We have 740 square miles of USD 105, and then we have, compared to that, we have a low amount of students, and it is a concern. And even Representative Smith mentioned that and we're not the only district who's like that. I mean, you think of the ones around us, Oberlin, St. Francis, even Chelan is the same way, and you think of, their buildings aren't that much different than ours. And so it is a concern. And they have said that they've looked for us. I don't know that we've had an update yet, but.
Yeah, the way the state legislature has defunded education recently, they changed the rules in 2015 about how they fund state aid for bond issues. So it used to be that school districts were getting quite a bit more in state aid to help offset some of the costs, but school districts don't get nearly the amount of contribution from the state level that we used to.
I was told I have to ask the financial questions for everybody who knows me. Okay, so this has come up several times. I mean, I've had people ask me this, so I'm like, I found out, but I'm gonna ask so you guys can explain. So if, this is not the number, but if there were to be a bond issue up for election for $40 million, using number. If for some reason you were to receive grant funding of $10 million, how is that applied for early bond repayment? I know that most bonds you cannot repay early, but how does that work, or have you guys investigated that yet?
Answer that, you want to answer?
You
Does this mean I have to answer this question?
From what I understand, because it did come up, the bonds have to be out for a certain amount of time, from what I understand. And the example used to be was like 10 years, that you can pay off certain bonds for that amount of time on it. That's probably the best answer I have for that right now.
Yeah, I'm not the financial guy in this either, they're in Kansas City, but they do set up these bonds to be callable, so that if the interest rates go down, they can be refinanced, and if you do have some funds that come in, that they can be used to offset, pay those down also. There's a certain amount of time that you have to keep them there, but they can be paid off earlier.
Okay, so it wouldn't be, would an example be that it would be held in the bond and interest fund? I mean, like, if they gave you $10 million and you threw it in the bond and interest fund, would that alleviate the property tax liability on our, constituency? Would that?
Yes, but it'd probably have to wait until that bond was able to be paid off early, but yes, you could do that.
But you could hold it there.
Yes.
I mean, it could, okay, because I was thinking for like the pool, if anybody remembers, that's kind of what they did with the pool.
The benefit would be at the end of the bond.
At the end of, yes, at the end of the bond. Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
Do you guys have anything else? No? You guys, anybody?
Mine, fill out the survey.
The survey. We have paper copies out front in the lot, or not the lobby, but the hallway. There's a QR code. Okay.
So sorry, I should have mentioned this earlier. There's a QR code that you can scan it with your phone and use. There's also a link, a URL, basically a web link that you can use that will be available on Facebook and on the web page that you don't have to scan this to do it electronically. You can just use the website access to do that as well. So there's 3 different options, and we have not talked about, we're not sending out anything to anybody. This is all, get a paper copy or do it digitally, but we're not mailing anything out to anybody.
If you need access, you know somebody who needs access, please have them call the district office, and we'll try to get them any way we can. We'll get it to them. I know tomorrow Emily's going to go around to a couple of different businesses and drop some off there, and ask the business if they're okay if we do that. So to get those out there. But please spread the word to have them call us. We're more than happy to accommodate the best we can.
What businesses are you dropping them off to? Do you have specific ones?
We have some, but we haven't asked them yet. I mean, probably the downtown businesses mostly. We didn't really want to do necessarily the ones on the highway, just because there's a lot of people traveling through and things like that.
I think there's some.
She's got more questions.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Last minute thoughts, squirrels. Are you gonna have drop boxes in other locations than just the school? Because then you're taking staff time from their jobs to receive surveys and pile them up. Is there gonna be drop boxes in different locations? Also, for some of our elderly community that obviously doesn't use technology the way other people do. It's just easier for them because they have limited time on their feet to drop it off when they're already in the store or in the bank or something. Is that something you guys are considering?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we were gonna drop them off at.
But they can return them to those locations too, or does it have to be returned to the
That's
school?
what we're gonna, that's what we're gonna
Oh,
ask them.
that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Oh, sorry. I know you loved me from the last time I decided to be a loudmouth. My class was kind of ornery, and so my concern is with that walkway, is that open? Because my class liked to throw stuff, and I can see kids going, oh look, target practice. Same with the cafetorium area, because I know you mentioned that that would be a good program location, and kids
Right.
horse around, that's what they do.
Yeah, and we do have the upper level on that, looks down onto that, and yeah, if you have, there is that potential that kids could throw stuff down there, and, hopefully staff can help supervise that, right?
We'll have cameras.
And that is true. Cameras are great for catching them after the fact, so, probably, we see that a lot more in schools, and I know when I was in school, we use those quite often.
And has the board thought about asking some of the high school students how they feel about a K through 12, a 7 through 12? Because let's be honest, they don't tell the adults everything that goes on, so they know interactions that went on that they're not going to blab. But if it's a vague, how do you feel one way or another, has it been considered to ask those students?
That's a good idea. I'm sure the staff will probably make that. I mean, I know the staff was at the beginning of this process, all of the staff was sat down to be able to say, what are your wants? What are your needs? What are your, and so that's a good point, that students should be able to get that option as well. So, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for coming out. We definitely appreciate, you being here. We also appreciate the feedback. Like, Greg said, I read through every comment that we had from the last survey, and, it helped the process a lot. It helped us explore, different options. It helped us explore different things to look at, and we want to have that again. And very much appreciate your thoughts as we're moving forward.
I don't have any question. I just want to say to you, sitting in front, on behalf of the community, we want to thank you for your time and effort. We know you have a tough decision, and we appreciate what you're doing. Thank you.
I just wanted to make a comment on Aaron's question about the state aid. I would encourage everybody to email, fax, send a pigeon, whatever you got to do, call our state legislatures and explain our situation, what kind of dollars we're looking at, how it's going to affect us. They don't completely understand how we operate out here, so let your voices be heard. And
We're continuously trying to.
yeah, and we're working too. But if they can hear from everybody, I think would make a big impact. So.
Okay, so just following up on Renee's, there's a lot of community members who maybe don't have kids in the school, and I kind of have a unique perspective because I have a junior, a 5th grader, a 2nd grader, and a kindergartner. And prior to this year's experience, I would have been completely against a K through 12 school. It would terrify me. And this year, all 4 of my kids that are in school, I have another one that isn't yet, but it has been fantastic for everyone. My littles have loved running into Dorian. Dorian told me it's hard to have a bad day when you walk through the cafeteria and see the kindergartners
So I did just want to share that perspective that, I mean, I think it's a great idea to poll the high schoolers and to ask them. In my own home, it's been a beautiful gift having this little trial run before we made this huge decision. And so I just kind of wanted to share that perspective in case you don't have kids in the school and, or you don't have them spread throughout the entire school.
Is there anybody else? One last chance? We will move on the agenda to 24 dash. Go!
I echo what Wes said as far as saying thank you to everybody's time. I'm the tall one that's just going to lift. As far as contacting the legislators, I think that's a great idea. Perhaps the school district could come out with something to share online, maybe even like a sample letter to make it really easy for us with email addresses. In speaking with a work colleague who's been on an area school board for 20 years, he said that the goal of making these bonds work is disseminating information in an effective way. And we have people here. I wasn't able to make it to the first meeting. Obviously, you're doing a great job of posting things online. But is there a point when maybe we do some physical outreach, form some committees, go visit the coffee club, the Rotary Club, the guys sitting in their planters? I don't know. But I think there's people that might be willing to help volunteer their time, my time, to help communicate with people. And then finally, just please keep moving forward. One of our biggest fears is that we stall out and it's 5 years down the road and we don't have anything done. So keep moving forward. Thank you.
Yeah, we do have a process that we use, especially for the bond campaign. The bond vote has not been established yet. It might be the same as the August 6th primary. It might be after that. That's up to the school board to decide, but we do have a process that gets the community engaged with that. We will also be visiting with staff again. It's been a month or 6 or 8 weeks since we did that last. We need to get back and do that. And then we've had student input in the past. And so this one's a little unique in the sense that a lot of times when we pass the bond issue, we'll then go back and revisit everything again, but I know that there is urgency to get this started, so that's something that we need to make an effort. Yeah, and so that's usually about 6 to 8 weeks long that we do that to get that process going. So that'll be coming.
Okay, we'll try this one more time. Is there any more questions? Going once? We'll move on to the agenda to 24-215, adjournment. 216. Adjournment.
You've got a motion on the table to adjourn.
We have a motion there. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And seconded. All those in favor? All opposed? Here we go. We're adjourned.